Hello and welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers. I am one of your hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin Heller. I forgot I was supposed to talk.
That's okay, but as long as you figured it out eventually, I'm going to mute the Kansas City-Tampa Bay game so that no one hears me watching it. And today, we're still just kind of getting ready for the NFL draft. We're recording this on Wednesday the 24th. The draft is the day that this is getting released, which is the 25th, tomorrow. So today's episode is going to be about the draft again, and then Monday's episode is going to be about the draft, and then next Thursday's episode is going to be about the draft. And you might say to yourself, wow, that's a lot of NFL draft. Well, chillins, this is the most important draft of any of the sports we talk about on a regular basis. So that's to be expected.
Yeah, and it's literally the only thing during the year that I care about at all. Only thing. That's it. NFL draft.
It's also like the only thing really going on right now. You know, it's still marginally too early for baseball stuff, and because it's not even Memorial Day yet. And the NHL playoffs was wild, though. Did you see that fucking game yesterday?
Yeah,
Sharks.
I watched that power
Sharks
play.
game?
Holy shit!
Oh my God! For anyone who doesn't know, just to touch on it very quickly before, this looks bad. Before we move on. Sharks entered a power play, a 5-minute major penalty, which means since it's a major, if you score, the power play does not stop; it continues. They entered a 5-minute major power play, down 3-0 in the third period of a Game 7 against the Vegas Golden Knights, and scored 4 unanswered goals in 5 minutes to take the lead and eventually win the game.
Just absolutely wild scenario.
I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen any playoff hockey, man. It's just
It's another
else.
level. Oof.
God, it's the best. All right, but today we're talking about football. What we're doing today is we're going to look at some of the biggest turnarounds in team record year over year, and we'll just see what we think some of these impacts could be, if any of it could relate back to players that were drafted in that season, or, that's what I'm looking for. Or any other impact that we think could be brought about via this upcoming draft. So let's jump in.
Let's do it. Where do you want to start?
I guess let's just start at the top, and we can decide if it was a draft impact or something else. Do we see anything? So the first one on this list we just pulled straight from 247sports.com. Is the 1975 Baltimore Colts. They went from being 2-12 to 10-14. If you think to yourself, hey, those numbers don't add up to 16, you're right. This is before the NFL moved into a 16-game schedule. So, what do you think about this?
Just reading into it a little bit, it seems more like this was just signing of a new quarterback and getting a new head coach, and also having Bill Belichick on the coaching staff. There was really nothing wild about their draft that would lead me to believe that this is due to that. But then again, I wasn't alive in 1975, so I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much all I'm seeing on this is the whole new quarterback and new head coach thing. If you had to parallel this to something, I guess the Dolphins maybe right now, since they're currently going to need a new quarterback and they have a new head coach already. Maybe the Tom Brady Patriots, although no, because Belichick wasn't new with Tom Brady. Belichick started with having Drew Bledsoe as his QB for the start of the season. Do you see anyone who's in this position now that you think would make a turnaround? A new head coach and new QB combo?
It's about a year late. But San Francisco,
I was about
Kyle
to say
Shanahan
Jimmy Garoppolo
and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah,
they were my favorite pick last year to have a big turnaround and push for the playoffs in the NFC West. Of course, their starting running back, starting quarterback, and several other positions got injured and things fell apart for them. But I genuinely think they're going to push for the playoffs this year, which would be fantastic to watch. It's just such a fun offense.
It is. If everything's right, it's a fun offense for sure. Yeah, I think that's probably the closest one because it's tough since the way teams are trying to run their finances is also now very dependent upon quarterbacks being drafted rather than acquired. So there's not too much QB movement nowadays, and when there is, it's like the Kirk Cousins situation. So I'd say that the San Francisco one's probably the most comparable. So let's jump right on down to the next one.
Well, before we go on, I think there's going to be a close second with the Jacksonville Jaguars because of some of that QB turnaround. I mean, their offense is still kind of shifty, but that defense with Calais Campbell, Jalen Ramsey, AJ Boye, Miles Jack, they just have so many good players and playmakers on that defense. And now if Nick Foles can be something, I think they have a serious chance to push for the AFC Championship again.
Totally forgot they acquired Nick Foles this offseason.
It's
so, yeah,
such
you're
a forgettable acquisition, you know?
Yeah, because it's a forgettable team and a relatively forgettable quarterback, and I don't mean either of those two things negatively. It's just like the way it is. Oh, God, Tropicana Field fucking sucks. I hate it. Anyway, 1976 New England Patriots. They went from 3-11 to 11-3. So this is just as in the past as the last one was. So we were just as not alive. Are you seeing anything in this that is a tangible reason for how this team's turnaround came to be?
No. Like, I don't know any of these players, so I mean...
Yeah, I don't know any of these things either. Yeah, I don't see a reason for why this is the way it is either. I'm not sure I care. Let's just go right on down to the next one.
So,
the creamsicles.
Just something before we move on. This isn't a ranking, I realize. This is, like, chronological.
Yeah, I realized it, too, after the second one. I was like, there's no way that it's going to be that close in years again. And then the next one's 1979. I was like, oh, it is. Ooh, that's a big shot. All right. The 1979 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they went from 5-11 to 10-6. The thing that I'm seeing is that this article claims that the greatest contributors to the Bucs' success was Hall of Fame defensive end Leroy Selman and the Bucs' entire offensive line, which honestly still sounds like a pretty modern way of winning. Yeah. Right? I mean, this is basically the 2013 Denver Broncos.
Pretty much. I mean,
right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
I mean, the 2013 Denver Broncos also had a good offense, but I mean, by and large, it was
a
at least in the Super Bowl. Yeah,
they had a pretty decent offensive line. Wasn't anything crazy like the what am I thinking of? The Cowboys the last
Raiders?
Couple years.
Oh, Cowboys, yeah. Yeah, I mean, do you see any teams that are currently built like this? Strong defensive unit and at least something of an offensive line? I guess the Cowboys were kind of like this for the past few years since their defense was kind of top-notch. Or at least full of marquee players in some capacity.
Man, it's hard to think because, like, all of, like, the top offensive lines that I can think of, you know what? The Chargers are built like this.
Oh, okay. I see that.
They have a very deep defensive, backfield. They have a good group of pass rushers, and outside of left tackle, they have an excellent offensive line. I would say the Steelers, but they have way too many holes on defense to argue that.
Yeah, we know how much Ben loves holes. Wow.
Yeah,
I think that's probably fair. Maybe the Bears? Maybe?
Bears would be a good one.
Okay.
A pretty decent offensive line.
The problem is also, if we're talking turnaround, the teams that we've mentioned are already good.
Yeah, it's true.
For the most part. So I don't see any of these teams really changing their standings much. So let's go on to the 1981. What?
The Browns. The Browns put together a real good offensive line last year, along with their defense.
This is fair.
That was a good turnaround.
It's very fair. Very, very fair. And a coaching change, too. They kind of just went full
helped.
bore on the whole. Yeah, a little bit. So, The 1981 San Francisco 49ers went from 6-10 to 13-3. Yeah.
I mean,
sure.
Joe Montana,
Oh, is this his first year?
San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, Joe Montana.
Well, that's a big one then, isn't
I
it?
think so.
Yeah, his name is mentioned. I just wasn't sure if this was his first season or not.
Joe Montana. Dun, 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 dun. Joe Montana started in 1979.
Jesus,
So I
really?
guess it was just his emergence. Holy shit, he played forever.
Yeah, because he retired in what, like 95?
94.
94.
Huge difference.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah, I'm not even a real football fan. Jesus.
Exactly. Well, I guess having, arguably the best quarterback of all time up until the change of the millennium, or, is kind of a good deal.
Yeah, so I guess this could just be the case of a QB breaking out. I mean, we've seen that. That's a pretty old story.
Yeah.
So that doesn't seem shocking. Do you see any young quarterbacks who you think are on the precipice of breaking out this season? I feel like Baker Mayfield's kind of already done it. Maybe. I mean, do you think Josh Allen has a big year?
I don't. I think if Josh Rosen can go to a serious team, I think he'll show his breakout.
Are you telling me that the Arizona Cardinals aren't a serious team? I mean, come on. They're doing something over there. We don't know what it is.
Right.
But whatever they're doing, they're trying really hard.
I think Mitch Trubisky will continue to break out. I think Baker Mayfield will continue to break out. That Pat Mahomes guy, I think he'll have a good season.
I don't know. The sophomore MVP slump might combine into one giant shit factory.
Completely
what about my boy?
Completely reverses his numbers, throws like 10 touchdowns for like 56 interceptions.
Yeah, totally. He starts looking away on all of his passes.
Exactly.
It's not just the good ones.
He turns into essentially the Harlem Globetrotters of the NFL and just tries to like alley-oop throws or, just crazy shit on the field. I think that'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, he starts to throw like Fernando Valenzuela and just closes his eyes as he does it. The Bull. Love that nickname. Anyway, what about my boy Sam Darnold? What do you see from this young buck?
Would love to
This
see him
trunky
continue
coastal kid.
to improve. I think he definitely has to cut down on some of those interceptions, but he really wasn't terribly awful last year. I just kind of hope that
and he finished well.
Yeah, I think having Le'Veon Bell is going to help him tremendously, especially with his efficiency.
Ain't gonna hurt.
Yeah, improving from who'd you guys have last year? Trenton Cannon. He finished the season as your top
Trenton
guy.
Cannon was. Did he finish as the top guy? Well, Isaiah Crowell, but I forget if he got hurt or not. Then Bilal Powell did get hurt, and he might be done for
Elijah McGuire
the entirety of his NFL career. Yeah, Elijah McGuire started the season on IR because he had foot surgery. Mm-hmm. So Trenton Cannon was kind of a by default guy, but he did okay.
Yeah, I remember when we went and watched him in the preseason game. He was killing it. He looked great.
Yeah. No, and he did really well for himself. It was nice to see. I like seeing when the young dudes do some cool shit. So we got the Cincinnati Bengals, who went from, and this confuses me, they went from 4-11 to 12-4, and one of those numbers is 15, and then one of the other number is 16. Was there a yeah, because the strike shortened season wasn't 15 games.
Not one game, yeah.
And that was in 86, right? So it would have been the year after this. So I have no idea how there was a 15-game final number of games played for this team.
No, they went 5 or 4-11.
Was there just 15 games that year?
One game due to another player's strike.
Wow, I didn't know there was a second one.
In which replacement players were used for 4 games. Who fucking knew? Yeah. Jesus.
But anyway, with this team, I'm not really seeing a great reason why. There's credit given to running back Ickey Woods, notable creator of the Ickey Shuffle. But they said that they also had other talent like Boomer Esiason, who is a terrible radio host now, awful radio host now. I can't bear listening to him. Anthony Munoz, Max Montoya, who I think we've talked about in the past, and a few other notable people. The fact that running back got first mention on this seems to be important, though, especially in '88. Do you see any comps to that right now in regards to running back being the premier talent of a team? I guess the Giants now, but
yeah, the Giants, probably the Cardinals right now.
Fair. David Johnson.
Yeah. Who else is? Maybe the Bengals this year if A.J. Brown is still hurt with Joe Mixon.
A.J. Green.
A.J. Green. What'd I say? A.J. Brown?
Yeah.
Right,
wrong color. Right guy, wrong color. Yeah.
A.J. Brown's black?
I meant the last name, dumb fuck.
Oh.
You said brown instead of green.
Yeah.
Those
Green's a
are
color.
both colors. Jesus Christ.
Well, A.J. Brown's a wide receiver, one of the top wide receivers in the draft this year, which is why I
No,
was thinking about
I
him.
know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm aware.
Way
to make this immediately about race.
Well, you start throwing out color there. It's hard not to.
Yeah. All right. Any other teams you think are like driven by their? What about the Jaguars? I mean, with what's his face, Leonard Fournette.
I mean, they definitely were last year. I assume that they're going to be drafting a pass catcher, like we said in the mock draft.
It's true. You had them taking that tight end, right?
Yeah, T.J. Hawkinson. I mean, we'll see what happens with Nick Foles. I honestly don't have a lot of faith in Leonard Fournette. Got arrested this offseason. Has just been so hurt for his entire career. My faith in him is dwindling.
I don't blame you in the slightest, and I also don't have much faith in Nick Foles either. So I guess we'll just see how this ship sails.
It's going to be a weird season for them for sure. But yeah,
all right. So let's go to a fun one. The 1999 Indianapolis Colts went from 3-13 to 13-3.
I mean, there's really only one thing to talk about here.
I wonder what happened that offseason. Well, what do you think, Corwin?
Peyton Manning actually turned into Peyton Manning, so that kind of helped. He had a rough rookie season, but man, the rest of his career was pretty great. Pretty fucking great.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yep. Just drafted the greatest quarterback of all time, and just needed a season to fix his shit. And I'd say that Peyton fucking Manning, man. That's all there really is to say, isn't there?
Honestly, like, just comparing this to a current team, this, unfortunately, is eerily similar to what the Browns are doing. Just an absolute laughingstock of a franchise leading up to drafting a quarterback at 1 overall. Baker Mayfield was better than Peyton Manning his rookie year, which is something. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's going to be better than Peyton Manning in the long run, but just having serious, Hall of Fame level playmakers on offense with OBJ there now, Pro Bowl number 2 wide receiver with Jarvis Landry matching up to Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne. I don't think Nick Chubb matches up with what was his name? Edgerrin James. The same. But the way these teams have basically just turned themselves around through, I don't know, just sheer force of will, I think it's pretty eerily similar.
The 1999 St. Louis Rams were 4-12 and then went to 13-3. Why, Corwin? Do you see a good reason?
Well, replacing
signing
your
quarterback Trent Green.
No, I don't think that was it. I think it might have been Kurt Warner coming on. Yeah, that might have done something.
Yep.
Yeah, so Kurt Warner famously played over in NFL Europe for a while. Came over and just absolutely lit the world on fire with the greatest show on turf. Eric Dickerson, kind of a good ball player. Kurt Warner, kind of a good ball player. Yeah, I mean, I wish I was around to watch them because that would have just been such a wild team to watch.
Yeah, I really wish I got to see the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, I saw it because I was alive for it, but I wish I had a conscious memory of the game of the Super Bowl between the Rams and the Titans because it sounded like just such a treat.
Especially the way that game ended. Oof.
I know.
All-time classic.
I want to keep going because there's a trend that's now picking up here that will be further revealed by especially the next few teams. So the next one is the 2001 New England Patriots, their second appearance on this list, who went from 5-11 to 11-5. And Corwin, what happened in 2001?
Well, a guy named Mo Lewis hurt this other guy named Drew Bledsoe, which meant this third guy, Tom Brady, became the starting quarterback. Not fun. Not fun for anyone in the past 20-so years.
So I met Mo Lewis once, and really nice guy. And when I was getting in line to meet him, I was thinking to myself, all right, I either need to tell him to go fuck himself or tell him I really enjoyed watching him during the course of his career. Because on the one hand, he was a really fun Jet, and on the other hand, he started this whole fucking nonsense. So,
which did you end up telling him?
I told him I fucking loved him. Because I do. He was a great player for the Jets. I loved him so much. His hand swallowed mine whole. And I don't have small hands. And they just ate it whole. It was insane. But yeah. So then, like, let's go to the next one. Let's see if this little trend continues and if anyone's picking up on it. Next, we got the 2004 Steelers, who went from 6-10 to 15-1. What happened in 2004, Corwin?
Oh, we happened to draft a guy named Big Ben Roethlisberger.
So we have just to go back a second. Let's leave the Chargers out of this for a second. The 99 Colts, the 99 Rams, the 01 Pats, the 04 Steelers. What's the big thread through all of these?
Drafting a quarterback.
Drafting quarterbacks or developing quarterbacks. That's in the case of the Colts. Yeah,
your young quarterback coming in.
And that's not much of a surprise because I bet most people would be willing to say that like Peyton Manning's career's beginning is kind of like the beginning of the ushering in of the quarterback era. The main passing game's the big deal. Like and that's what's kind of crazy about like people comparing Peyton Manning's rookie stats like you did for Baker Mayfield is because like it's so weird to look at his rookie stats because like it wasn't a good rookie year, but it wasn't even really like that bad of a rookie year relative to what everyone else was kind of doing, because it was the beginning of it all. It was, like I said, it wasn't great if you look at it.
A lot of interceptions.
Yeah, and not. Although what's funny is he had more interceptions than touchdowns, but I think he led the league in touchdowns that year too, just by throwing like 16 or 18 or some shit because it just really like wasn't much of a deal.
Let's check that.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up too.
He did not lead the league in touchdowns, but 26 is nothing to.
Yeah, no, 26 ain't bad at all. And to have, he cut his interceptions almost in half the following season. Jesus. Yeah, so I mean that makes a lot of sense, and that's why you see teams doing whatever they can do to get quarterbacks nowadays because they kind of run the fucking show. So it's not a huge surprise that in the more recent ones of these we're seeing quarterbacks dominating the big turnaround teams. So the 2004 Chargers are a little bit different in that like they had Drew Brees, although Drew Brees hadn't really hit his stride, and they had Antonio Gates and they had LaDainian Tomlinson. They'd get better over the course of the next couple of seasons when Phillip Rivers would eventually take over as the starter. But let's jump over to the 2008 Dolphins.
Before we do that, I just want to point out
this is like the seventh time you've done this.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I looked into it because we were talking about it. The quarterbacks in 1998 for Peyton's rookie year, is fucking insane. Steve Young, Randall Cunningham, Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, John Elway, Drew Bledsoe, Doug Flutie, Steve McNair, Troy Aikman, Jim Harbaugh. Just so many good fucking players. All right, 2008 Dolphins. Moving on.
They went from being 1-15 to 11-5. They won the division that season, only the second time. The last time the Pats didn't win the division was this year. The only other time since Tom Brady's tenure was 2002 when the Jets won it. And they won it from both teams won it for the same reason. Chad fucking Pennington. Number 10.
The best.
I love him so much. I've met him as well. He is a wonderful man. But again, we're going back to the quarterback trend, right?
Yes.
And I
Adding a
think
Pro Bowl level quarterback tends to help things out a bit, you know?
And I think we're going to see the same thing in the next team, the 2013 Kansas City Chiefs, who went from 2-12 to 11-5. And they did this in large part because of Alex Smith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Matt Castle was not the greatest pickup by them prior to this.
No, Matt Castle was like a really, really good backup quarterback.
Yeah.
But that's it. So now I think, with these last two teams, we're seeing that quarterbacks, getting traded, building up teams. Now it's almost like now we're building the market for quarterbacks, how much money they make, really getting shown off here. They're proving their value in trade, so you can't just say it's good systems or good coaching. Like, this guy's going to be good when he's good where he goes. So let's look at the next team, very recent, the 2016 Dallas Cowboys, who went from 4-12 to 13-3. This one I think is a little bit more nuanced than the generalizations we've been making thus far.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, so why don't you expand upon it?
So leading up to 2016, Dallas was focusing heavily on building a tremendous offensive line to really anchor their team. And at this point, they had one of the best offensive line units in past history. And then in the 2016 draft, they grabbed a guy in the first round named Ezekiel Elliott, which kind of a good running back, and a sixth-round QB named Dak Prescott. I think it was the sixth. It might have been like the fourth or fifth, but it doesn't matter.
I want to say it was the fourth.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of Tom Brady earlier made me think of the sixth round. But, I mean, Tony Romo, wasn't he undrafted?
I believe so, because I think his small-ass little school made like a whole thing about it.
Right. Regardless, Tony Romo got hurt early. Dak Prescott has to come in. He performs admirably. Whatever. And their running game behind that offensive line just really carried that team, and they were phenomenal all season. They were fantastic to watch. Zeke led the league in rushing yards and touchdowns. He was just phenomenal. Didn't win the Super Bowl, but oh well.
I think there's a very similar story with the next and final team on this list, which was the 2017 Jacksonville Jaguars, going from 3-13 to 10-6, and I mean, damn, you could say a lot of the same things about this team.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have nearly the level of offensive line, but where they lacked in offensive line talent, they made up for in defensive line talent and their defensive backs. Having Leonard Fournette, having Jalen Ramsey back there, Calais Campbell, they were phenomenal all season. Basically, that defense and Leonard Fournette carried Blake Bortles to the AFC Championship game. And it was a tough loss, but I think if they can come back from that just uberly disappointing season last year, I think they're going to maintain that level of success with Nick Foles.
All right, if you had to pick a below 500 team to have a big turnaround, more than 5 games, we'll say, is a big turnaround. 5 games or more, I'll say. 5 games or more. Which team do you take?
Ooh, I mean, I feel like I gotta take Man, I gotta take San Francisco just because I think that they're gonna just add so much with having Jimmy Garoppolo back, having all those running backs back, being able to take a premier pass rusher at the second pick. I think they're gonna have. I think they're the safest bet to improve. I think the Jaguars would be most likely to have the biggest change, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I
can
think
buy it.
if the Jaguars improve and play up to their potential, I think they'll have the biggest jump in wins. But I think the 49ers are the safest pick to improve by at least 5 wins.
I'm going to be a punk and a homer, and I'm taking the Jets.
Jets, Jets.
I mean, especially if I'm going to say only 5 wins is a big turnaround since we were 4-12 last season. I could very much so see this team being a 9-win team. Very much so, with a second year of Darnold and all the acquisitions we've made, and the prospect of drafting something good upcoming would be fun. But if I was to, oh no, don't do that, computer, go back, punk bitch. But if I was to pick like a non-Jets team, Jags is a great choice. I don't buy the Raiders yet. The Giants I have zero faith in. The Lions I could see, but I couldn't see them winning 11 games. Maybe the Packers, since they were 6-9-1 last season, could have a sizable turnaround, since a team with Aaron Rodgers is always pretty threatening. Maybe one of the Falcons or Panthers, since those two teams are never bad like 2 seasons in a row, seemingly.
Right.
Yeah, and then your choice of the Niners is also good. A lot would have to go right for all these things to happen. I think a safe pick, uninteresting and safe, would be like the Falcons or the Panthers, because they both have good quarterback situations, and Carolina has like a capable defense at times. I think both teams have a capable defense at times. But yeah, I'm going to go with my Jets, my Jetty boys, the gang green. Fuck it, I need something to root for this season. It's been enough of the possibility of being good. But that's it for today. We'll get back to you again on Monday, so we can talk about big picture stuff that happened in the draft ahead of our deep dive into it next Thursday. So Monday will be immediate reactions, I suppose you could say, to the first round of the NFL draft. So in the meantime, if you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. It's JuicingPod. If you want to find our website, you can do so at juicingthenumbers.wixsite.com/website. And if you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicingthenumbers at gmail.com. And that's it. Y'all have a good one. Talk to you on Monday.